Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. Welcome to today's live video. Today we're talking about the North and South nodes, changing signs. We're going to get into what this means, what you need to know to be ready. Welcome on. Know also that if you are watching the replay, that this information is just as good after the fact. So don't be sad if you weren't here for the live. This is all totally rewatchable. And if you are jumping on live, say hey, leave me a comment, let me know you're here. And I will be just checking a few things on the live broadcast, and then we will get into this live video on the North and South nodes entering Aries, and I'll go through everything you need to know about this upcoming transit. Okay, so it looks like our live is good. Let me check our sound, and then we will be ready to go. Okay. Okay, we are good. We are good. Welcome to everyone jumping on. So like I said, today we're going over the North Node and South Node transit. At the time of filming, they're currently in Taurus and Scorpio. Now the North and South nodes are pretty significant, especially when it comes to evolutionary astrology and the journey of the soul, which I know a lot of you are into. So today we're getting into what this transit's going to mean for all of you. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about the energy of the nodes in Libra and Aries, which is what they're moving into. And then we're going to talk about what it means for each rising sign of the zodiac. So like I said, say hello if you're just jumping on, and let's get right into it. So the North and South node, like I said, currently are in Taurus and Scorpio. They usually take about 18 months, a year and a half, to go through a set of signs. The North and South node are always opposite. So whatever sign the North node is, the South node's in the opposite sign, and vice versa. They're always exactly opposite. Because they are points in space, the North node being the point in space in front of the Earth, that's sort of like the path we're coming into, and the South node being the point in space behind the Earth, representing the path we're leaving behind. Now, in evolutionary and traditional, these mean different things. This is something I'm going to talk about in my Astro 101 course that is now available for purchase. We're going to start this course on the 24th of June. It'll be 8 weeks with me. There is a link in the description if you'd like to join us. I would love to see you there. But back to the North and South node. So they're always exactly opposite. There are different ways to interpret whether you're looking at the modern or the traditional. And modern, I'll say modern / evolutionary, or the traditional significations. So that all being said, we are going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what they mean. But before we do that, I do need to kind of give you an honest heads up, and you guys know that I'm not going to lie to you. Even though we're all excited about the North Node, because it's like we feel this connection to there being more to this life than what we can see. And the North and South nodes sometimes really do give us a strong confirmation of those kind of things. The North and South node in transit, of all the planets that are going through the sky at any given time, the North and South node are not as strong as the planets, because the North and South node are points in space. They do not have gravity. They are not grahas. Okay, grahas are the planets. These are the things that have gravity, that can literally have that gravitational pull on us. So if you are new to astrology, yes, the nodes matter. They matter and they're significant. But if you're trying to look at transits, one common mistake I see beginners make is they will give the North and South node transiting points way more power than they should. It should go the other way. The planets, especially the outer planets, they get the most, they pull the most weight, literally. They are the biggest. They have the most gravity. The nodes are the smallest in this sense, okay? In the sense that they're going to pull you a certain direction. Now, Another planet hitting your north and south node, that's a different story. So if that is confusing or you want me to explain that more, leave me a comment. But let's go on to who is most affected by this? Who is most affected by the north and south node entering Aries and Libra? You will be most affected by this transit if you have your north or south node in Aries or Libra. So north node in Aries, south node in Libra, or the other way, south node in Aries, north node in Libra. Since the north node is going into Aries, if you have your north node in your natal chart in the sign of Aries, what this means for you is that you will be having a nodal return. And if your north node is in Aries and you don't know what a nodal return is, I have a video on nodal returns, so you should go watch that. If you have your north node in Libra, south node in Aries, this transit will be your nodal opposition. So this will be when sure, Jeannie, I'll go ahead and answer that question. If you have your north node in Libra, south node in Aries, that's your nodal opposition, which is more of a time of like changes. You can go watch my video on nodal opposition and nodal return. That they're the same video. You can definitely check those out. Let's see what you're asking, Jeannie. I'm going to go ahead and read this question. Not sure if you can touch, but how does the energy of North Node natal and transit? Yep, that's exactly what I was saying. We're just on the wavelength. Yeah, so those are actually, in my opinion, the two most significant things. If you're looking at, well, how's the North Node going to affect me, is where is your natal North Node or South Node? Now, if you have personal planets in Aries or Libra, this will also affect you during the transit. So whatever planets you have in Aries, as the North Node passes those planets, this is an 18-month cycle, by the way. As the North Node passes those planets, this will be a time where those things in your life increase. Now, whether that's good or bad kind of depends on which planets they are and what the natal promise of those planets represents. Now, if you have your Aries planets making squares to other planets, you can expect more of a challenge. Whereas if you have that North Node in Aries, if you have planets in Aries that are like, Jupiter and Venus, this will probably be felt more positively. If you have personal planets in Libra, so Sun, Moon, Rising, Aries or Libra, or even if you have your Mars, your Venus, or your Mercury in Aries or Libra, again, when the North Node or South Node pass those planets, there will be certain effects. And in general, the effect of the North Node passing your planets is it grows. That thing grows, it increases it. Again, whether that thing in your life is good or bad, it will increase. The South Node going past planets has the effect of decreasing it. And so I just want to give a big kind of cautionary warning, like heads up to Libra Sun people. When the South Node hits your Sun, it sucks because you feel like you don't know who you are. So if you have your Sun in Libra, I recommend figuring out what degree your Sun is and figuring out when the South Node is going to hit that point. Because if you have this information, you'll know ahead of time that your identity can feel like it doesn't exist for those couple of weeks. It can be a time where you feel like, who even am I? What is even my role in the world? Do I even exist? Of course, I'm being kind of dramatic here, but some kind of energetic feeling like that can truly happen during that transit. So that being said, that is what you can expect for the nodal return or opposition, and I do have another video on that. Let me see, did I cover the dates? I think I forgot to do that. And I just pulled this up and I thought I wrote it down in my notes and I didn't. So I'm just gonna look at this really quick. North Node. Yep, it's my Google search I just did. North Node in Aries dates. July, it's from July to about January 11th, 2025. Let me confirm. And sometimes you'll find that different astrologers are going to give you different dates on this. That is not what I said. Because there is actually 2025. I'm trying to do two things at once and I cannot. Okay, so this is, yeah. days. Hold on. I'm just figuring out which day in 2025 the nodes shift into the following signs, the Pisces and Virgo, which will be next. Remember the nodes move backwards? Oh my gosh, this is so wrong. Why is this so wrong? Okay. Around end of January 2025, January 29th. So the North and South node will be in Aries and Libra, the North node in Aries, South node in Libra. And I didn't write this down either. Oh my God. I wrote this on the freaking thing. July. Oh, there it is. Yeah, right where. That's wrong. It's not January 11th. It's January something else. It's January 29th, 2025. July 12th, 2023 through January 29th, 2025. The North Node will be in Aries and the South Node will be in Libra. So we do have a bit of time with this transit. Now keep in mind the dates for the North and South nodes. Sometimes you'll see dates that are a little bit different. Like you might see another astrologer say a few days before or a few days after. That's because there's two different ways to measure the nodes. There's one called the mean node and there's one called the true node. The mean node is not an asshole. It's actually a average of the point in space. It's like a mathematical average of where that point is, just so it's easier to kind of follow. When we use the mean node, it's like it moves more consistently through the sign. Whereas when we use the true node, this is like the exact point of that thing, and it'll oscillate. So it oscillates back and forth. So this is why, I don't know why the mean node exists, but this is why some astrologers choose to use the mean node, because it's like it travels more like in a line like this. Whereas with the true node, it's like so it'll go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, so that being said, let's talk about the themes of the Aries North Node and the Libra South Node and what we can expect for us collectively during this transit. The first thing is, let's talk about Aries. The archetype of Aries is the warrior. You know, it is cutting. Aries is ruled by Mars. It is really a energy that is decisive. It is quick moving. It is fast. It is not messing around. It does not care if it's going to offend people. And the beauty of the nodes is that we get that polarity. The nodes are always an opposite sign. So these are always the polarity of that, the polarity, right? The polarity being the opposite signs. Okay, so Aries is cutting. It's forward moving. It's decisive. It's very what's the word? Can be pushy. Direct is the word I'm going for. Libra is indirect. Libra cares more about harmony. Libra wants to have that balance. So the archetype of Aries being the warrior, being the soldier that has to think about survival and can't afford to consider feelings. That's like the most extreme archetype of Aries. The most extreme archetype of Libra is the peacemaker. I think of the wife, I think of the assistant. I think of the, person who is like, okay, honey, we'll go with what you want to do. Now, of course, husbands can do this too, but it's the archetype, the energy of the person who will put your needs above theirs, right? We have to have balance in life. And for every person who is a leader, there has to be a follower or there can be no leader. For every person who has a strong career, really they do need someone there to make their dinner and stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm going to do that. I'm just saying, I'm not saying any of you have to do that. But like, the Aries Libra axis is about self versus other. It's about uncompromised versus compromise. So things that won't work when the South Node is in Libra in our lives is energetically us being such a peacemaker. Have you ever been in a situation where you or someone else was like, oh, I can't do that thing. That person will be mad. They'll be angry with me. And later you find out that other person didn't give a shit at all. And the whole time you were like trying to keep peace with something that wasn't even real. Leave me a comment if you know what I'm talking about, if you've been that person or you've seen someone else be that person. I have been that person where I'm like, oh, I can't make someone angry. And then it turns out they wouldn't have even been angry about that thing anyway. It was just like this thing I thought I needed to do to keep the peace. Okay, so peacekeeping to the extent that it isn't healthy for us or others, this won't be as useful this time. At this time, doing things that are so about harmony. I also think about just saying yes when you want to say no. Now, does this mean that we're all going to be stuck not being able to do that? No, but it doesn't work as well. When the South Node is in a sign and we cling to the negative behaviors of that sign, every sign has them. It's not just Libra. It's not just anything, every sign has them. But when the South Node is in a sign and we cling to those negative behaviors, it doesn't work. And we're sort of encouraged more, or we sometimes even want to more, go for those North Node things. So with Aries, what do we want to go for? Well, we might be a little more rambunctious collectively. There might be a little more fights started because like Aries, North Node and Aries is survival. It's don't take my stuff, I'll beat your ass, It's street fighting. It's just conflict. And so the thing is that the conflict is something that is not always bad. And people with South Node and Libra natally, this is one of the hardest things. This is one of the hardest things with people with South Node and Libra is to say no to somebody, or even Mars and Libra. It's so hard sometimes for certain Libra energies to cause a conflict because it feels like you're going to die if people are mad at you. And maybe in a past life you did, and maybe that's why. But it's also hard for those people who are a little bit more aggressive and conflict prone to understand that, right? Because people who thrive in conflict don't always understand those Libra problems. So peacemaking to the extent that, you end up stopping from doing something in your own life that you want to be doing or is right for you to be doing, that is not going to work at this time. It will not be as effective. And what will be as effective is being more independent in the ways that you need to. And also being more courageous, being more cutting, being more decisive, being more clear and direct and going straight after what you want is going to be highlighted at this time. So when North Node is in Aries, we can do those things that require more independence. We may have to start things that require more independence. And that's what we tend to have to do. That South Node in Libra energy, when we're getting stuck in that South Node, that's us in situations where we don't want to rock the boat, where we want to keep the peace, where we just want the other person's goals to be to happen. Now, there is a time and a place in life sometimes where you do take the back seat and it's okay. But during this transit, the ways that we've been doing this that haven't been working, that is what we may have to sort of learn to let go of. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about, other themes with South Node Libra that we're going to see that won't work as well is like just letting other people go first when we don't need to. Also, I think of like when you, like the person in the family who always says yes. Who, if you say, oh, can you watch my dog this weekend? Or, can you check my mail when I'm on vacation? That person who always says yes and feels like they always have to say yes and can't just say no. That is a situation that we may have to look at or may not work as well. Always saying yes when we would rather say no. And then keeping scorekeeping and being mad about it later when someone else doesn't do that thing back for us, recognizing those tendencies we all have within ourselves. And now, not everyone has these challenges, but if you do, this would be a time where the more that you go for that setting boundaries and push yourself out of your comfort zone to set boundaries and say no in a way that is healthy, not mean, right? Because we don't, a boundary is not a threat. A boundary is, if you do this, I will do this. If you text me outside of work hours, I won't answer. That's a boundary. Don't text me outside of work hours is not a boundary. So North Node in Aries, it's time to see how we can set those boundaries, see how we can be independent, see what ways we need to do that. This does not mean we're all breaking up and getting out of relationships. Some people will fall in love during this time. Some people will end relationships. Sometimes some people will be single the whole time, and some people will get in new relationships. The nodes don't tell us that. We're talking about the bigger, more evolutionary themes of self and survival versus other and harmony. And those polar opposites. And because the South Node is in Libra, ways that harmoniousness or peacekeeping are holding us back, and ways that independence or strength or being more cutting or decisive or straightforward, starting new things, ways those things are going to help us grow. So I'm now going to talk about the signs for a minute and what this means through each sign of the zodiac. So we're going to start with Aries, and I'm going to just change my settings here so I can do this a little more easily, and then we'll talk about what each one means, and basically what you need to know. So based on your rising sign. You can watch your sun, moon, and rising. Just know your rising is going to be a little bit more about what what is actually happening in your life, like the physical, more tangible things. Also, I do want to shout out my new course that we're doing this the 24th of June. Even if you're watching this afterwards, you can still get it. If you're watching it live or, before June 24th, you can jump in and join us while we do Astro 101 Live. I'm going to teach you all the fundamentals you need to start reading aspects. There will be another course on aspects that goes more into the advanced and more intermediate methods of aspects reading, but this will be every fundamental thing you need. Oftentimes when people can't read aspects, it's because they never really learned how to actually read a planet in a sign in a house. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. We're going to go through the planets, the signs, essential dignities, so which planets are well placed in any sign. We're going to talk about Lilith and the nodes and Chiron, how to interpret those. This will not be a list of meanings of each thing. It will teach you how to do it. So if you want to learn how to apply astrology without having to use Google as a resource, without having to watch a video to tell you what it means in that house, this is a course for you. So there is a link in the description if you would like to know more, and I hope to see you guys in it. I think it's going to be really, really awesome. People have been asking me for this course for a very long time. So that is something you can get in on. So now that we've covered that, let's go over the North Node in Aries. The North Node in Aries transit, and we're going to start with Aries rising. For you, the North Node and let's go ahead and show the chart for this. Let me get this up here. All right, so let's get it the right size. And here we go, North Node in Aries. Keep in mind, this is just a snapshot of one moment during this time. It's not the whole couple years, but this is the North Node in Aries for Aries rising. This North Node will be in your first house, South Node will be in your second house, which means for you, it is about following your own unique life path. If you have been, usually Aries risings don't have as much trouble with this, but it depends on your other placements. If you've been in a time where you have been giving too much to relationships, people pleasing in a relationship, or not being yourself to sort of make someone else happy, this might be a time where those things need to change, or you see how that's not working. This is the time to embrace what makes you special. And it's a really good time to make big life changes with that North Node in the first house to expand who you are, to even like increase or make better, your own self-image. Making your self-image better is a really strong theme. And that can be through changing different habits, changing your look, or changing how you come across in a certain way. Or even, again, making positive changes that require some growth and expansion in you, your identity, and your life. So kind of a big one for Aries. Moving on now to Libra, or no, not Libra, moving on now to Taurus. Yes, okay, here we are. So this is a chart for Taurus rising for this transit. And so that's going to be just the North Node in the 12th house, South Node in the 6th house means this is a time where you may need to embrace spirit guides or unseen forces. The 12th house is the unseen forces, and it doesn't have to be negative, but this is a time where you may find that, you need to, the more that you embrace your relationship with spirit guides, your ability to get quiet, your ability to kind of see more than just what is. This might also be diving into psychology because the 12th house is the void, it's the unknown. So on some level, Tauruses may find that during this transit, you may find that you can't just workaholic yourself to death. You may find that you need to see any kind of workaholic themes, any kind of way that you keep yourself so busy that you are not getting quiet. That old behavior, if you do have that behavior, will probably be something that you see the need to change, and you have the opportunity to change through expanding. Even a teeny bit of meditation or journaling during this time will be helpful. It's all about growing your connection with spirit guides, the unseen, your own subconscious mind. So moving on now to the next rising sign, which is Gemini. The North Node in Aries will be in your 11th house, South Node in the 5th house. So this is a time to consider the needs of the group, consider the needs of society, consider your own, like how your life can benefit people, but in more of a public way. The 5th house is similar to the 11th house in a sense that it's about, these houses to me are about connection. But the North Node is about connecting to people in groups. And the South Node is more about like, I'm going to be myself and you're going to be there and receive that energy. So with the South Node in the 5th, we can need to let go of things like addictions. We could need to let go of like, if we're too obsessed with ourselves, this axis reminds me of the phrase with artists called kill your darlings, where it's about being able to know when to let go of a creation if it's not going to benefit people. So this is a time for Geminis to learn how to fit yourself in society in a certain way. And it might have to be learning what aspects of your own creative self-expression to let go of. What aspects of self need to be filtered or even censored just a bit in order to help society? I'm not saying change who you are. I'm saying things like, I think of myself a lot on these examples. Like I have a YouTube channel. If I make just videos I want to talk about and I don't consider what you guys want to watch, nobody watches it. It's that energy. It's that energy of having the maturity to know what society needs, what the group needs from you, and moving toward that and moving away from just what you want to say for the sake of being heard to what you want to say for the sake of helping other people with what they want to hear and need to hear. You can say the same thing, but you got to say it in a way that other people want to hear or they won't listen. So that's kind of the energy I have for Gemini. Also, good time to go after your hopes and dreams during this transit. I would say that is every time, but more so for Gemini on this one. So the next sign we have is Cancer. For Cancers, the North Node will be in your 10th house of achievement and the South Node will be in your 4th house of belonging. So this is a time for Cancers to recognize ways that you maybe hold yourself back from achievement because it's comfortable, and go after the things you want and really embrace your public image, embrace the idea of accomplishing something. It does not mean you have to do something you don't want to do. It's more about seeing how staying in your comfort zone or just having a little more downtime is keeping you from doing something you actually really want to do, and not succumbing to that, not succumbing to hiding out in your house too much when there's things out in the world you want to be doing. Embracing your reputation, starting something new work-wise. These are all highlighted during this couple years. So the next sign we have after Cancer is going to be Leo. For Leos, this is happening in your ninth house of travel, knowledge, intuition. So South Node in the third, North Node in the ninth, this transit is about learning how to really know the difference between things you want to know in your mind versus things you know in your soul and your heart. And it's about moving away from the need to cling toward mental security, like to boost up your knowledge to make you feel more powerful, and moving toward what's meaningful. It's also a time where you may find that it's less about sharing what you know from a factual perspective, and more about learning. This might be a time where you're doing less teaching, less speaking, more learning, more like filling your mind and your heart with different belief systems. You may find that things that you believe could call you could be called to learn something new during this transit. Really good time to learn, but it's not about just accumulating facts and accumulating knowledge. It's about learning things that really you get to the deeper understanding of why. They're more deep, they're more philosophical, they're more meaningful, or they are more about why things are the way they are, or why you believe what you believe. Faith-based things are really strong during this transit as well. Also, whenever anything transits the ninth house, you might be wondering why you believe what you believe. So there is a little bit of that built into this transit. This might be a time where Leos are figuring out what they believe. So moving on now to the next sign, which is Virgo. For Virgos, this is happening in your eighth house of trust and intimacy. So this is a time to share, to learn how to share. I'm not saying you don't know how, but to learn a next layer, a next level of sharing and intimacy and trust. This is a time to let go of doing shit yourself. South Node in the second, the negative pattern of the second house is living your life like this, focusing in on your own comfort zone. The second house is your value. It's things that are important to you. This does not mean you have to let go of everything important to you, but that it's not a time where you can it won't work if you try to put too much emphasis on just your own life and your own schedule and your own routine and your own stuff. This is a time to learn how to share. It's a good time to pay off debt. It's a good time to make investments that are worth it, and to really consider what you're investing your time and energy in. But really, to me, this is all about connecting with people on a deeper level. And if you have trust issues, overcoming those trust issues so you can have connections with people that are deeper. The North Node will support this behavior. It will not support doing everything on your own. So that's something for Virgos to know at this time. The next sign we have is Libra. For Libras, the South Node in your sign and the North Node in Aries really brings more of a focus to relationships. Now, you guys are already relationship focused, but the things that you do to work in harmony with other people and do the thing you normally do best, which is put other people first. And I don't mean that like you guys can't do other things, but Libra tends to be very good at naturally letting someone else speak first and they'll speak second, finding out how everyone feels before they share their opinion so as not to rock the boat. Now, it's interesting though, because that North Node in Aries does bring an emphasis on being more independent or being more courageous in relationships. So do not think that South Node in the first or seventh means a relationship starts or ends. That it doesn't do that. What it means is in the relationships you have or that you develop during the course of this transit, it will be more important to try to set boundaries and try to assert yourself and try to make sure your relationships are not taking you away from who you are. Also, you might have to watch out too for the other side of this, where it's diving so far, so deep into the relationship that you don't know who you are. Although I would say that's probably a little more aligned with this nodal transit. So, Libras, it might be a time where you do sort of get closer to a person and find that someone else's identity becomes more significant in your life, or even more significant to your identity, or something like that. Moving on now to the next one, which is going to be Scorpio. For Scorpios, the North Node will be in your 6th house, and the South Node will be in your 12th house. The 6th house is all about being of service and feeling useful. The South Node in the 12th is like saying, don't isolate too much. This is not a time for Scorpios to go into the void, to try to manifest through just talking to your spirit guides. This is not a time to do a ton of, things by yourself. It doesn't mean you can't keep doing that stuff, but you also need to get into the world and be doing shit. Scorpios, during this time, North Node in the 6th, do stuff. Do stuff that involves getting better at things. Do stuff that involves skills. Do stuff that involves helping others, being useful, being of service. You're going to feel better if you do. Do stuff that involves bringing the things you've learned in your spiritual depth, which you've got to have, Scorpio. I know you do. Bring that into real life. If you have spiritual beliefs, figure out a way you can bring that spiritual belief into real life. I never remember the word for this thing, where the Japanese people, they I think it's Japanese, where when they're pouring tea, they are just pouring tea. It's the idea of being so present to the thing you're doing, to be the best person pouring that tea, to have the pride of your accomplishments. That is what this transit is about for Scorpios. Being proud of what you do, whether it's how you fold your laundry, whether it is how you have a conversation with someone, whether it is the tone of voice you have when you answer the phone at work, regardless, and apply that to whatever fits for your daily schedule. This is about showing up as your absolute best and giving your heart and soul to the mundane things. And some of you Scorpios are not going to like that because you have to slow down to do it. But that is what the North Node is about for you in the 6th house. It's that presence. Being intentional. Thank you, Kathy. Yes, being intentional with not just the conversations you have, but putting your intention into the work that you're doing in particular, whether that work is actually at your job or your business, or whether that work is taking care of your kids, or whether that work is doing some kind of creative passion. It's all about putting your heart and soul into being the best version of yourself and producing the best work or getting better at a craft. So moving on now to the next sign, which is going to be Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, you guys have this happening in your 5th house. North Node in the 5th house is the fun house. Sagittarius need to have fun right now. You guys always need to have fun, but when the North Node is in your 5th house, it's about self-expression. It's about having fun. It's about not people-pleasing too much, not putting too much of your energy and time into what you think is going to make the group happy, whether the group is your audience, whether the group is your clients, whether it's your friends, or whether it's your family or this circle you hang out in. Not compromising too much. And when the North Node is in your 5th house, this is a time you need to claim and go after what you want creatively if you have not done so already. If you're already in a creative passion that you're working on, this is a time where to work with this transit, the way you do this is you claim what you want and you go after it. With the South Node in the 11th, sometimes you fall back into this pattern of giving the people what they want, and wanting to know what your audience wants from you so you can give it to them. This is the time to say, fuck that. Do what you feel you want in your soul. Claim that. Don't wait for permission. Okay, that's the thing that can be hard during this one. So go for that. That's what I have for you, Sagittarius. Moving on to the next sign, which is Capricorn. For Capricorns, you have North Node in the 4th house, South Node in the 10th. It's about belonging. Where do you belong? Who are your people? South Node in the 10th does not mean you don't have a career or you can't do work during this transit. It just means that if you only focus on recognition and career and advancement, but you don't give enough, you don't give any attention to how it feels or whether you'd be happy doing the thing or whether there would be fulfillment, that's what's going to trip you up. You can keep working toward your career, Capricorns, during this one, but you'll want to honor your soul, honor your needs, honor your emotions, honor the sense of belonging, and move toward, if you don't have a group of people that are family or like family, to create that more so. And if you do have a group like that, this is the time to really grow those bonds and grow that feeling of things that feel like home. That is what this transit is for Capricorns. Moving on now to the next sign, which is Aquarius. For Aquarius, the north node in the third house, south node in the ninth house. So the third house, when it comes to the nodes, is about your mind, what you think. And for Aquarius, hands down, this is the time to communicate what you know. It might be a time to start that podcast. It might be a time to start communicating more about the things you know in the places that it makes sense. Because that south node is the knowing, right? And the beliefs. But the north node in the third is facts, communicating it in a way that makes sense to people, not talking over people's heads. Aquarius, I know you guys know a lot of shit, but this north node in the third is about being able to say what you know in a way that isn't gonna, like in a way that people can pick up what you're putting down. That's what north node is, and the third is about. If you have challenges being heard or communicating, this is the time to overcome those challenges, work through those, and start a new cycle, or at least try to start new conversations. If you've been isolating, talk to people. Have little conversations about nothing. Give people directions when they're tourists. Like, any kind of conversation is going to be good at this time. That's what I have for you, Aquarius. Talk to people and focus on the value of small talk, which sometimes some of you, some of these signs, especially, from Sag to Pisces, myself included in these, we don't always want to do the small talk. We want to do the things that are meaningful and big and important and grandiose, but giving someone directions to the store matters. And being able to have small talk matters. So Aquarius, you guys might need this lesson today, or maybe you already know, and it's a good reminder that, like, sometimes you can't get to the deep conversation if you don't have the little conversations, and be able to do that in a way that people are comfortable and that isn't aloof. So there's your truth, Aquarius. Moving on to the next sign, which is Pisces. For Pisces, you guys have the north node in your second house of value, south node in your eighth house of sharing and trust and merging with others. Pisces may have a time during this nodal transit where, if you have connections with people that are not good for you, if you have people you are close to who are not a good influence on you, this might be a time to let go of those connections. If that's the case, this may also be a time to kind of just focus in on what you want to do, focus in on your value, focus in on your own self, your own thoughts, your own life. With South Node in the 8th, sometimes you want help from other people that you don't need. Sometimes you want to rely on other people when you don't need to. You need to be more independent. So it's about seeing those ways in your life, Pisces, that your reliance on people, it's almost like where you're not like standing on your own 2 feet. If that is the case, any area where you're just a little too dependent on someone else, those things may not work as well during this transit. It may be a time to initiate something also financially, because that second house is all about money and what you have and what you own. So this might be a time where you find the courage to start a business you've wanted to start, or find the courage to get a raise or make improvements to your value, your money, or your possessions. You might just be buying new stuff during this time, but it's all about seeing your value and seeing how much value you provide without entanglements. Again, doesn't mean you can't be in relationships or you have to, be alone during this time, but it's about creating the time in your life, the aloneness that you need, even if you have a relationship, creating the certain level of independence you need if you're not getting it within a relationship during this time. So that North Node in the second, again, it's a time to embrace your value, your stuff, your money, and what you want. What you want, and it doesn't mean stop doing what everyone else wants. But again, if you're doing what other people want all the time, if you have a job you don't like because your partner wants the money, this would be a time to maybe consider what your life would be like if you had a job you did like. Or other things like that, where if you are giving so much to a situation that you're not getting anything, or if you're in a connection that is, like that if you were to like, I just thought of my own life. Okay, so a connection where you just give and give and give, and if you left the situation, they would just get everything. This would be a time to consider maybe changing that too. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be different for everyone, but North Node in the second for Pisces, it's about you and your value, seeing your value, working on that self-worth, and doing what it takes to be the person you know you are capable of being. Even though most people aren't going to say that for the second house. But that's what I think of the second house, because the first house is like you, who you are. The second house is like what you have. And a lot of what we have is our stuff. But even that is because of the work we did to get that stuff, because of how valuable we think we are to begin with. So when you have a lot of self-worth, you can have nice stuff. And when you have shitty self-worth, and I'm thinking of myself here too, maybe you don't have nice stuff, maybe you break your stuff, maybe you don't take care of your stuff. Now, not all Pisces have these issues, but if you do, they will be coming up during this transit. It'll be a time to consider, what do I have? And, what do I deserve to have? And where in my life am I not getting what I deserve? And what could I do differently, independently, without a bunch of debt or without a bunch of owing someone else or without a bunch of entanglements, to create a different situation or to align myself more on my own values. That's what I have for Pisces. So thank you to everyone for watching. We're going to stop there for today. There will be videos coming up on the monthlies, so stay tuned for those. Also, join my course, you guys. Just do it. Just join it. It's going to be so fun. It's Astrology 101. You need this stuff if you want to learn aspects. It's the stuff that we tend to skip. If you can't read an aspect, if you get to that part and that's where you get stuck, what that means is that you didn't learn the basics. Because when you know the basics, when you can read a planet in a sign in a house, and you can read another planet in a sign in a house, and you know the nature of aspects, reading an aspect isn't so hard. You can just put all those things together. But in order to do that, you have to know kind of what order to go in. And you need a process. You need a process to follow to interpret the planet in the sign in the house and then the other planet. You need to know what these planets do to each other. And once you know, it's not that hard, but if you're missing even one of those pieces, none of it works. That's why I called this 101 course Keystone, because the keystone is like the middle of the arch that unites the two sides of the arch together, and that's what we are going to have by doing this course. So check the link below for that, and I will see you all in the next video.